Joining me at this time, senior CPIM leader Brinda Kharach. She's been amongst those who fought for decades asking for the Women's Reservation Bill to be brought forth. And also with us on this broadcast is Chavi Rajawat. She's been a sarpanch in a small village and has an experience of how women's reservation plays out on the ground as part of our Panchayati Raj system. We have with us representing the ruling BJP, its national spokesperson Sanju Verma. Shama Mohammed represents the Congress. We've got Dr. Sandeep Shastri, who studied census delimitation and will give us a sense of the impact this could potentially have on women's reservation and who this benefits in the 2024 elections. Brinda Kharach, I want to come across to you first. You've been amongst those who've been a key part of the women's reservation movement. You fought for this for decades, quite literally. The government is now turned that promise into reality as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned. The Rajya Sabha is up tomorrow. What do you think of this historic day when a battle that you fought for so many decades is finally nearing fruition?
Is it really turning it into a reality? From what I have read about the draft of the bill that they have presented, they have very unnecessarily linked the bill to the census and to the completion of the exercise by a delimitation commission, which is yet to be appointed. And I believe that turning this bill into a reality will take very many more years. So the opportunity that the Modi government had in 2014 to do so, the opportunity it had in 2019 to do so, it did not do so for whatever reasons it can only explain. And now to be presented with a fait accompli, bringing a bill at the fag end of their term and saying, calling it some absurd name, Nari Bandhan, what does it mean? We are here as equals. What on earth are you trying to say? Patronizing, patriarchal? So quite frankly, I'm disappointed with the way that this is being done.
The counter to what you're saying is, it's better late than never. This promise has been made for more than 2 decades. No government ever mustered the courage to actually push it through. The UPA government could have done that from 2010 to 2014, but they were dependent on the SP and the RJD. They didn't. You must certainly acknowledge, ma'am, that the government has finally pushed this through, and the Prime Minister himself has staked his political reputation on passing this bill, and his government will be judged by how soon the bill actually becomes reality. So he's actually putting himself out there, and now the women of this country will judge whether it was just a jumla or indeed a serious promise.
I think it's all linked up. As far as the UPA government is concerned, it was the joint efforts of the UPA and those who were in support of the bill at that time that we did get it passed in the Rajya Sabha. I have written about the scenes which were there as part of the passage of the bill and the kind of barriers which were put even at the last minute. But it was adopted. There was a very good chance of it being adopted in the Lok Sabha. But as usual, patriarchal forces and those opposed to the bill sabotaged it, and it's taken from 2010 to 2023. My question is why? And are we just to just be so grateful that, well, at last we have got this and better late than never? What I am saying is that this government had the opportunity to do so because it had a majority. It had a majority of those who are in support of the bill. It refused to do so. It's brought it at the fag end of its term, and now it wants women to be eternally grateful. Well, my take is no. If you're serious, as it is, you've messed up, remove that clause. Delete that clause in the bill which links women's reservation with the census and with the delimitation process.
But it's the opposition, ma'am, that's wanting to link the Women's Reservation Bill with the caste census. They're demanding that there be OBC reservation from amongst the reservation for women, and all of this potentially only seeks to delay the process rather than getting on with what is on the table. You're wanting to set the bar higher and thereby ensuring that it doesn't actually get implemented. What do you make of what the opposition is saying?
Well, I mean, have the people who talked about OBC said that they're not going to support the bill? I mean, we can all have opinions as to how to improve the bill, how to, include more sections in the bill. That's all fine, it's part of the discussion. But have any of these parties said that they're going to oppose the bill because there is no OBC reservation? I haven't heard that in any speech. They have made suggestions, that's fine. What are the amendments which have been moved? And what's going to happen when the bill is actually voted? You'll have to look at that. But I do believe that it is important for the government to delete the clause which links the bill to the census and to the delimitation process. I think that to a great extent will ensure that the bill will be implemented as soon as possible. This way, as it is, we've lost the opportunity in the 18th Lok Sabha. Na?
Okay. I want to go across to Sanju Verma on some of the things that we heard from Brinda Karat. You're objecting starting with the name, saying Nari Vandan. This reeks of patronizing patriarchy and it's unacceptable. What is this Vandan business? She's asking. Sanju Verma, let's start from there.
No, Rahul, I'm not obliged to respond to what Brinda Karat says about the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, reeking of patriarchy, because I'm an empowered woman in more ways than one, and I think it's a befitting name. But I just have this to say. I was listening to the almost 8 hours of speeches made by both the ruling party and the opposition. What struck me was Sonia Gandhi saying, "Ye apna hai. This is our bill. This is our idea." Rahul, you know it as well as I do, that at least on 4 occasions, if not more, be it H.D. Devegowda or be it Atal Bihari Vajpayee or even the Congress for that matter in 2010, there were repeated attempts to pass the Women Reservation Bill, but it never came to fruition. And I always say that an idea is only as good as its execution. So while the Congress, Sonia Gandhi and Jairam Ramesh pat themselves on their back and preach till the cows come home, ये हमारा कांग्रेस का दिया हुआ idea है, which has been usurped by the BJP. The fact of the matter is, and the hard truth is, it will be difficult for some people from the opposition benches to digest as much. Who is bringing this to fruition? 454 people today voted in the Lok Sabha in favor of the Women Reservation Bill, which is not just a 2/3 majority, mind you. It means that 83.6% of members present and voting gave a thumping yes to the Women Reservation Bill introduced by the Modi government on the floor of the Lok Sabha. Point number 1. Point number 2. Each time the Congress says that the BJP has changed its stance and suddenly it feels the need to show solidarity with the issues of women, I would like to remind them, and anyone who has an iota of knowledge in terms of political history, that in 2010, when the Congress brought this bill on the floor of the Rajya Sabha, where it was passed,
okay,
but it could not pass muster in the Lok Sabha, it was not the BJP. It was the Samajwadi Party and the RJD which actually did not support the Congress, and today the Congress is actually holding hands with the Samajwadi Party and the RJD.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, Dr. Shamika Ravi. This is, politics aside, this is a historic day. A day when India joins a global committee of nations which have affirmative action for women. How do you see this change and shape Indian politics from the time it actually gets implemented?
Well, Rahul, I think the time is right. This is, we waited long enough. It truly is a historic bill. And you can see there is bipartisan support for it. I mean, one can quibble about the details, but by and large, I think across party lines, you had great support for it across almost all national parties. So, this is good in the sense, I think now there is a pipeline of women leaders. A lot of those wrinkles have been ironed out. If you consider the fact that today almost half your Panchayati Raj institution elected members are women. Remember, the quota was 33, and today you have almost half
But
of them.
are you concerned that in the initial years, because this is a reservation that's to be applicable for 15 years to begin with, are you concerned that in the initial years, the women who get tickets are likely to be relatives, either wives, husbands, wives, daughters, mothers of sitting male MPs? Or is that a concern?
No, Rahul, because those are not concerns for men. And you see lots of men who also get tickets on account of being relatives and so on. So no, I don't think you should put that added burden. Also remember that even if tokenism, etc., as a criticism does arise, again, Panchayati Raj, if anything, it's an experiment that tells you that it could start from there. But very quickly, it does develop a pipeline of women leaders. So essentially what this bill does is it lowers the entry barriers for women, which we know is much higher than for men. And in essence, that is what it's like, a market failure of electoral system. So we are never going to see enough women if you don't have a law. So, it's all good. And politics aside, I think it's truly historic. We have come a little late at it. Philippines started with 33, almost 33 years behind. Right? And it has taken us some time, but I'm so glad we're here. I think the main concern, which I think the discussion ought to be around, is, are parties prepared with this kind of a party? You see, the tokenism and the kind of issues you are raising only become an issue if the political parties have not nurtured women within their party system. And I think the litmus test there becomes, if you study the constitutions of each of these parties, the national parties, and how close are they to actually meeting...
Okay. Chavira Jawat, you've actually been part of the Panchayat movement. There are those who would have concerns about the quality of women candidates and whether these are genuinely empowered women with agency deciding for themselves, or these are women who've been put up as proxies, as the term used to go, sarpanch patis. The male still has a role in the running of the sarpanch of the panchayat, even if he isn't the sarpanch. To what extent do you think those are issues which are now in the past? To what extent do you think those are issues that will remain at least in the initial years?
Well, culturally, as we know, especially the northern part of India, yes, it is a very patriarchal society where the Purush Pratha is dominant. But if we look at what traditionally things were, what numbers of Purush Pradhan or Purush Pati that we saw, I think that has already reduced considerably. If I were to look at my first term in 2010 to my second term in 2015, things had already started changing, with more educated women coming forth and asking for their rights, demanding that they be the ones sitting in the position of power because they're the ones who were elected. So that is already happening. And I think more so now than ever before, women are more conscious and more aware of what the challenges are, what their rights are, and the fact that there is a platform where they can speak and they will speak. Whether they are educated enough or not, that is immaterial. And that is what the beauty of today is, because everyone is touched by social media, is impacted by it, is impacted by the awareness and knowledge and information that is coming through it. And that also gives them much more confidence, because even if you cannot physically be present in front of someone else, you can use these channels to have a very effective, informed voice. And I think that is what is the tipping point in ensuring that when this does see the light of day, there will be more women who will be able to create an impact. When I became the Sarpanch first time in 2010, I do not have a political background. I had no idea what I was really walking into, but I did enter it, and I think I fared very well. I did not have a team to work with me. I did not have access to internet during my first term, but I very successfully brought about development in a village which needed it, in the hope that I can inspire more people like me across the country to do so. So if I could do it alone, anyone can. That's what I believe. And I'm very, very optimistic, and I'm hoping this comes through. It comes through sooner than what people are claiming it could. The daily, I just hope does not happen, because the the impact can be made and will be made.
Shama Mohammed,
Yes,
questions are being asked to the Congress for demanding caste census, for talking about OBC reservation. Now, Sonia Gandhi gave an interview when she was trying to bring the bill, which spoke about how you didn't need OBC reservation, that if you wanted to reserve a certain number of seats from that reserved quota for OBC candidates, do it. You don't need separate reservation. Now, when she's in opposition, Congress leaders are in opposition, you're asking for the same thing you thought was untenable or unrequired when you were in government.
No, even, let me explain that to you. One, today just now you said that they had the courage. Now see, we also had the courage, but we did not have the numbers. 2014 manifesto of the BJP and 2019 manifesto of the BJP.
Ma'am, you aren't answering my question. My question is on caste census and my question is on OBC reservation. Yes.
I will answer it, Rahul. Just give me 1 minute and I'm going to answer. You're sure I'll answer your question. So what I'm saying is that they could have passed it much earlier. Number two, they could have passed in 2015, 16, 17. We wouldn't have these issues of the census, which was in 2021. Now, most important point is the delimitation. What do you mean by delimitation is in the 545 seats, they're not ready to give it to us. What's the point? In that, we need the reservation. After delimitation, the seats are going to be increased. So that's our reservation. They're just giving you some extra seats which are new, which is coming in, and we'll get it. And that too after 2029 or maybe 35, according to Nishikant Dubey, whatever he said. So what I'm trying to say is that I was shocked. I was very happy day before, very excited. And I'm, the Prime Minister, I thought when he says something he could do, like we saw the Article 370 abolished, Triple Talaq abolished, GST at midnight, this also he would do. But what was the point of the special session? The question you asked about OBC, those, yes, I agree at that time, we said this, and now you have to understand 13 years have passed. Things have changed. You can see what is the difference. I think Rahul Gandhi has said something. He said that, Rahulji said that out of the 90 secretaries, only 3 are OBC. So
ma'am, because they're all from the 1990s batches, and during the 1990s, largely it was your government which was in power. It happens in a hierarchical fashion. You rise to be secretary depending on what the intake was. So that argument really reflects the inadequacies from your time in government.
Yeah, so we voted today. That was a suggestion to include. We also asked them why not do the caste census. But at the end of it, I heard Rahulji saying, please pass the bill for 24. So we had a
let me put that question to Dr. Sandeep Shastri. This idea of linking it with delimitation, I heard the Home Minister say, 29 के बाद आएगा. There is a clause in the amendment about delimitation which says that 5 years after delimitation, the delimitation exercise, the first census after delimitation, the delimitation exercise begins in 2026, leading many to wonder when will this actually get implemented. What's your best sense at this moment from what we know? Sandeep Shastri.
Rajdeep, Rahul, as per the last constitutional amendment, there would be no delimitation till 2026, and that will be based on the census we have in 2021. So as I see it, this is likely to happen at the earliest around the time the next delimitation happens.
No, which is what, 2026?
Which will be post 2026. And once this is passed by the Rajya Sabha, while it will become a legislation,
No, but the delimitation exercise itself takes at least 3 years. In the past, has also taken 5 years.
Now, it again depends on when the government takes a call to create the Delimitation Commission. We need not create the Delimitation Commission after 2026. Post 2026, the exercise of undertaking the delimitation can begin, but then it has to begin on the basis of the 2021 census. So once the data of the 2021
but the 2021 census can only now happen realistically after the Lok Sabha elections next year, which is at least June 2024.
There is no question of this happening before the next year's Lok Sabha election. The only time it can happen, as per the existing constitutional mandate, is in 2026 after the census of 2021.
No, but delimitation takes at least 3 years. Could take 5, but at least 3. Then you're already hitting 2029. So it's touch and go. by this very basic calculation, Sanju Verma, already for 2029. You know, everyone who's watching would have wanted for this to be brought with greater speed to be implemented sooner.
Okay, Rahul, I just want to make a couple of things very clear. You know, nobody seems to have spoken about this, but one very important thing which needs to be mentioned here is that way back in 2001, there was the 91st Amendment to the Constitution which was passed, and the 91st Amendment clearly stated that there is a freeze on increasing the number of seats in the Lok Sabha and their distribution thereof across states and union territories. I'm sure Mr. Shastri would be able to corroborate on this, but the 91st Amendment clearly says that there cannot be any increase in Lok Sabha seats prior to 2026 because of the freeze, which basically means that once the delimitation exercise is conducted post 2026 and there is a rise in the number of seats, in all probability from 545 odd to 888, which is what is being bandied about as far as the Lok Sabha goes. And for the Rajya Sabha, from 245 to 384 is the number that is being spoken of. Then we will have clarity as to how to go about then distributing seats in terms of how many to reserve for the scheduled castes, how many seats to be reserved for the scheduled tribes, and how many to be included in the general category, which would also include OBCs. Please note, which nobody seems to be discussing, even the current strength of the Lok Sabha, barring the 2 nominated seats, 543 is based on the Delimitation Commission of 2008's recommendations, wherein 412 seats of the Lok Sabha fall in the general category, 84 seats fall in the scheduled caste category, and 47 fall in the scheduled tribe category, thereby totaling up to a grand total of 543. So my limited point is, without getting into the nuances of, you know, Delimitation Act kab hoga, Delimitation Commission, when will it be set up, when will the census happen, let us not miss the woods for the trees. I just have this to say, for the Congress to wax eloquent about the rights of OBCs is a bit too rich, because don't forget that the first ever commission to give rights to OBCs was set up under the aegis of Pandit Nehru in 1953. It was famously called the Kaka Kalelkar Committee.
Okay, Sandeep Shastri has his hand up. I want to go across to him. Is it the right and proper thing to have done, as the Home Minister said in Parliament, to let the census happen first, the delimitation next, and then determine which of these seats to get reserved? Because he did make an important point. For example, if Wayanad got reserved, or if Hyderabad got reserved for 2024, Shama Mohammed and the Congress and OVC would be up in arms saying, ye kya ho gaya? This is political partisan action, and therefore he's saying let it happen through a quasi-judicial process.
Rahul,
no, so can I come in?
Rahul, it may be very easy to say that we should have it next year, and we are ignoring the practicalities when we say it should happen at such a great haste. Clearly, the constitutional amendment done last time says that the next exercise of delimitation will be post 2024. And I think that we will need to keep in mind. Remember, the Kuldeep Singh Commission was appointed in 2002, and it went on and did its job over a few years. So in preparation for the delimitation, whenever the 2021 census data is ready, the process of identifying or the process of taking forward the delimitation can be carried on. So I think to expect this to happen prior to the 2029 elections would be very unrealistic.
No, so one second. This is one second. Sandeep Shastri, are you saying it cannot happen before the next Lok Sabha elections, or are you also of the view that it's only likely to happen after the next Lok Sabha elections?
There is no question of it happening before the next Lok Sabha election.
Why not?
A period of 6 to 7 months would be impossible to be able to manage the whole question.
No, but they can step it up. You know, this is a government that can get things done fast if they want. Maybe they can get it ready in time for the next Lok Sabha elections. Why are you saying it's impossible?
At this stage, the type of legal finesse that a 1/3 reservation of seats for women would require, I think, is not something that can be done in a period of time which we now have available before the 2024 elections.
Can I just come in, Rahul?
Just 1 second. Sanju Verma, do you want to respond? Because we saw Yogendra Yadav, now Sandeep Shastri. Now these, Yogendra Yadav is political now, but Sandeep Shastri is an out-and-out academic. And he's saying on the basis of just the legal, technical finessing, doing this before even the next Lok Sabha elections looks, he says, impossible.
You know, Rahul, I don't want to be sounding overconfident or bombastic because, today is a day when even the opposition needs to be applauded a bit because all stakeholders have got together to ensure we got 454 votes in favor of the Women Reservation Bill. Having said that, as you said, I think the biggest achievement of the Modi government in the last 9.5 years is that we don't build flaky castles in the air. We actually translate ideas that prove to be unthinkable and unimaginable for erstwhile dispensations. We have brought them to fruition and executed them on the ground. And I will just give you 3 examples.
No, 1 second. Let me go close to Shama Mohammed. Now, Shama Mohammed, here is the thing. If the Prime Minister has now moved this bill, helped pass it, his credibility is on the line. If it doesn't happen for the next elections, 2029, the women of India will ask that question and Sanju Verma will find it very difficult to answer. It may seem difficult to the likes of Sandeep Shastri, but the government needs to do what it needs to do to ensure that it happens in time for the next Lok Sabha elections. Their credibility is at stake.
Yes, so that's what I'm telling you, Rahul. You spoke about consensus, you would make a problem. Was there any consensus when Article 370 was taken off? Was there consensus in triple talaq? There was no consensus in many other things.
I thought you were unhappy at that time. You should actually be applauding them that they're going by process and procedure.
I'm happy with the triple talaq, no denying it. But what I'm trying to say is that there was no consensus. See, this is not, Narendra Modi is not a man of consensus. So why suddenly consensus? And my only thing to Sanju Verma is, when we passed the bill in 2010, we did not put in delimitation. Why this delimitation? You're a woman. I'm saying let's not wait for a delimitation. Go ahead and like you said.
No, but delimitation. No, 1 second. That's a very facile argument, Shama Mohammed.
No,
because
we do not.
But respond to the argument the Home Minister made. What if Wayanad got reserved? No, because if it happens in an ad hoc fashion, you try and push this through before the next Lok Sabha elections. You have to decide which of those 543 seats will get reserved. What if Hyderabad or Wayanad get reserved? Then you'll say cheating ho gayi hamare saath. Then you'll accuse the government of bias.
Let it get reserved. Why not? Let it.
You are saying let it get reserved. I don't think Rahul Gandhi will be very happy with that. Rahul Gandhi may not be very happy with that if it gets reserved.
Rahul Gandhi spoke with his heart. I saw it. And I think Shamika Ravi has said a very important point. She said 50% women now in corporation and panchayat. Shamika Ravi, that is my government which passed it in 1993. And Rajiv Gandhi started it, 33% reservation for women in corporation and panchayat. We do. What we say we do, my dear.
Rahul, can I please
Okay. No, 1 second. I want to go to Chavi Rajawat as well. Chavi ji, as someone who's obviously tracking this process and has been a stakeholder in the electoral process at the panchayati level, are you disappointed with the fact that this is going to take so much time? The likes of Sandeep Shastri think it is tough to make it happen. For 2029, he in fact said impossible, but even if they try and make it happen, it will only happen before the next Lok Sabha election. So do you think they should have done it as is, where is, and just pushed it through?
See, any change that happens does require some thought behind it. And I'm sure when the bill was first thought of many years ago, the people then also must have thought it would be an impossible thing to take through. But we have come as far as we have in all these years. And I think due credit needs to be given to those who were behind it, as we saw the lovely photographs of people across parties coming together, all the lovely women. And as women, I think we all want this. And not just women, I think even the men who are feminists, who do believe in he for she campaigns, we all want that change to happen. And I do think, as you yourself, Rahul, stated, that with the current government, for all we know, maybe they will speed up the process. Maybe they are already in the process of getting the data that is needed. And who knows? It just may be sooner than...
Sandeep ji, that's for you. Modi ki guarantee hai now. He has to find the way, as Chavi Rajawat is suggesting. It's his credibility. People like Chavi are looking up to the Prime Minister and saying, it's now your credibility that's at stake. Find a way of proving Sandeep Shastri wrong.
When Prime Minister says he does it, he has done so many things without...
Suddenly the opposition has a lot of faith in the Prime Minister. They keep citing him. Okay,
Rahul,
but
can
let
I please
Sandeep
make a quick
Shastri
point?
respond. No, 1 second. Let Sandeep Shastri respond.
Rahul, there is an ideal and there is a practical. Can we, in practical terms, do this in the next 8 months is the big question, and do it in a manner
No.
transparent,
Forget
which
8
is
months. 8 months is too
non-political.
impractical. But I think 2029, if they really put their hearts and minds
2029
into it, is possible.
Because the Constitution mandates that post 2026 you can start the process of delimitation.
Sir, but there are different ways. 1 second. Just for the sake of an academic argument, let's assume that everything that needs to be done in the preparation for the delimitation exercise is done before 2026. Setting up the commission, determining who's there, giving them a mandate, finishing off the census exercise, publishing the census results. So
That's already there.
Yeah, so let's assume starting on the census isn't done. The census needs to happen after the Lok Sabha election. But I'm saying you can speed the whole process up and ensure that it's completed before 2029. That I think if they push themselves, Abhi to aap impossible bol rahe the. Now you're saying it can happen. You've changed your mind in the course of the show.
No. I said it cannot happen for the next Lok Sabha election, I was saying. The Lok Sabha election...
You said 2029 is also impossible. Everyone who's watching will remember that you said at the beginning 2029 is also impossible.
Not for next year.
Rahul, can I please quickly come in?
Okay, I'm out of time, so you need to rush this through. Very quick final words. Sanju Verma wants to go first.
Rahul, when people say you are a Modi bhakt, you are an Andh bhakt, all that you guys do is say Modi hai to mumkin hai. Not only Modi hai to mumkin hai, but Modi hi aayenge 2024 mein, because people who talk about OBCs, I will just reinforce what Amit Shah said. 85 of our MPs are from the OBC category, 27% of our MLAs are OBCs, 41% of our MLCs are OBCs, and 37% of the Modi cabinet belongs to OBCs, including, people from the Dalit community. We have 11 ministers and 8 ministers from the scheduled tribe community. So when we say Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, and Sabka Prayas, it is not a Jumla, Rahul Gandhi. We have walked the talk. Unfortunately, Rahul Gandhi, Mungeri la ke Haseen sabko
Okay.
dekhte rahiye.
Shama Mohammed, final words.
Rahul, she said that there are many OBCs. So why not give OBC reservation for women?
Ma'am, you were opposing OBC reservation when you were in government. You yourself were opposing OBC reservation when you were in government. Now, just because you're sitting on the opposition benches, you think it's a great idea. That's the ultimate height of hypocrisy. What has changed? As far as the philosophy is concerned, what has changed? Ma'am, as far as the philosophy is concerned, what has changed?
Time has changed, and one last point.
No, 1 second. How does time changing change anything? What has changed? Between when Sonia Gandhi said no, if you want to give OBC seats, in the seats that get reserved for women, ensure that 33% or even 50% are reserved for OBC women. You can do that yourself.
No, listen to me. There are times, I'll tell you why. Suppose in a state like mine, the OBC women are there, but the Nair women get it. The other women get it. So
your party has to take care of that when they are allocating tickets. Madam, your party has to take care of it when seats are being allocated.
You did not even give him a decent relation. You did not allow Narasimha Rao into the AICC headquarters. And today Sonia Gandhi remembers Narasimha Rao.
Congress party, when they say something,
Okay.
they do it. They got an RTI.
So I'm out of time. Okay, I'm out of time.